At this point, we all know the disappointment that is Xbox exclusive library throughout this generation of consoles. If you've seen my video about why I'm excited for what's next for Xbox, you know that there is hope for the future. But on the Xbox One, Microsoft has stumbled at nearly every hurdle by one or two hit games. And unfortunately, this trend continues with the release of Crackdown 3. Stuck in what was essentially development hell for 5 years and changing its focus hugely since inception and its first showing at E3 back in 2014, I think most people knew Crackdown 3 wasn't going to be a candidate for Game of the Year. But now that it's finally out to the public, I've given the game a good chance to at least see what it's all about. So let's look at what the developers did right and wrong and where it sits in the current crop of new releases for 2019. Crackdown 3, at least its single player mode, was developed by Sumo Digital, known for their work on games like Little Big Planet 3, the Xbox 360 releases of Forza Horizon 2 and 3, Sonic All-Stars Racing, and a huge back catalogue of smaller games. And it's not great. But to be entirely honest, it's not terrible. I just don't think it sits comfortably within the current generation of games, especially as a AAA title. The main premise of the game is a simple story of stopping the big bad by taking down their generals and fighting and exploding your way to the top to save the game's fictional city. But that is literally it. There is almost no substance here, and in comparison to what feel like similar games such as Saints Row and to some extent Sunset Overdrive, which I think was fantastic, this game just doesn't give the player much reason to want to spend time in this world. It's bombastic and over the top, but the stupid jokes generally don't land and the humour seems forced. And the addition of Terry Crews, even though he's amazing in every role, just doesn't add any depth to the game and was clearly used as a marketing ploy to get people excited. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. The city design is boring and unimaginative, and there are too many wide open areas with little action, and as many reviewers have stated, it feels like it's a game from last generation just with a higher resolution skin slapped on. The missions, and I hesitate to even call them that, are just a repeated process of taking down enemy industrial plants and machinery, destroying enemy monorail stations, and blowing up cars and turrets. There is no substance here whatsoever, and it's disappointing that the developers didn't take any risks to actually give the players a good story to explore. In a loose comparison, a wild, bombastic and humorous game like Borderlands or Borderlands 2 still managed to build an intriguing world and story to feel attached to, but here unfortunately it just doesn't exist. But there are some positives and fun aspects of Crackdown 3, at least once you push through the first god-awful hour or so. Combat, although incredibly simple with its lock-on shooting mechanics, can be an absolute blast once you begin to unlock interesting weapons. Some of the explosive weapons were my favourite, as well as the good selection of grenades, with the Singularity Grenade being a pretty satisfying choice. This is probably the one area where Crackdown 3 makes you smile, while mowing down hordes of enemies and taking down the bosses you encounter throughout the story. Some are better than others, that's for sure, but I particularly like being in the heat of combat and being able to cause huge amounts of destruction. This destruction, mind you, is not what was originally planned for the game. The original announcement tech demo showed the power of the cloud, with real-time destruction of entire skyscrapers being a pretty impressive feat. Alas, this does not exist whatsoever in the campaign. Now, I haven't played the Wrecking Zone multiplayer mode, but from what I've seen, it doesn't hold a candle to the destruction seen in early teasers, which is a pity. I think if this could have been implemented, it would have been a huge draw for players, but it clearly couldn't be achieved. And another positive, I guess, is the performance. Now, it's not world-changing, but the game seemed to run pretty smoothly on Xbox One X, even with a ton happening on screen. Loads of explosions and particle effects didn't seem to slow the game down or cause significant drop frames. It was definitely playable. Yes, it's not huge praise, but it's something at least. But on the other hand, the graphics in general just aren't amazing. The colour palette is really vibrant and nice, but the buildings are standard fare and the world itself feels pretty barren and empty. It's such a shame as an Xbox fan that this is the level of exclusive title we're seeing released in 2019. This game should have been released years ago, and it could have been potentially more successful and accepted if it had actually released alongside the launch of the Xbox One X in late 2017, especially if the cloud-based destructibility was successfully implemented. One positive for the developers here is that it is available on Game Pass, so hopefully lots of people get their hands on it and give it a go, because there is some fun to be had, and some people may really like it. As someone who only dabbled in the original Crackdown on the 360, this game just doesn't really push the right buttons for me, and doesn't give me the nostalgia feel that some others might get, but it's definitely not the worst game in the world. If you have Game Pass, it's definitely worth a go. You can kind of just sit back and relax and blow the absolute hell out of some bad guys, while unlocking a few easy achievements along the way. But now I want to throw it over to you. If you've played Crackdown 3, what were your thoughts? Did you pick it up through Game Pass? Have you played the multiplayer mode? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and let's have a chat. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to Direckt Gaming to make sure you stay up to date with all my new content. I've got a lot more stuff coming soon, and I appreciate all the support so far. You can follow me at Direckt Gaming on Twitter and Instagram as well, so you know exactly when my new videos drop. But until next time, peace.